2:17 a.m. Rain hitting the window like someone throwing rocks. Tamsin sat on the edge of a hotel bed that wasn't hers, in a room she paid for with cash, wearing the same clothes she left the house in 6 hours ago. Her laptop screen was the only light. She pressed play again. By morning, she won't have a name left to defend. Soren's voice, calm, almost bored, like he was scheduling a meeting. She pressed play again. By morning, she won't have a name left to defend. Her bank app was open in another tab, 3 accounts, all frozen, not low, not overdrawn. Frozen. Her phone had 41 unread messages. She had read none of them. She already knew what they said because she had spent 12 years helping other people survive exactly this moment. The sudden silence. The pulled contracts. The clients who stopped picking up without explanation. She just never thought she would be the one sitting in the dark trying to breathe through it. 1 week ago she had a business, a reputation, a marriage. Now she had a flickering lamp, a damaged audio file, and a husband who had already decided she was finished. What Soren did not know, what he had never bothered to find out in 12 years of marriage, was that Tamsin did not keep that small silver recorder out of habit. She kept it because she had learned, a long time ago, that powerful men always say the quiet part out loud eventually. They just never think anyone is listening. She pressed play one more time, and this time she did not flinch. She started writing. Then she heard it. Footsteps outside her door, slow, deliberate, the kind that stop right where they're not supposed to. Tamsin closed the laptop. The room went black. She did not move. She did not breathe. The footsteps stopped. She crossed the room in the dark, pressed her eye to the peephole, and felt her stomach drop. A man in a black raincoat, standing completely still, holding an envelope with her married name written across the front in thick black ink. Her married name. The one only Soren knew she was still using. Who told him where she was? She did not open the door. She stood in the dark for 4 minutes, eye pressed to that peephole, watching a man who did not move, did not knock, did not leave. Then he slid the envelope under the door and walked away. Tamsin waited, counted to 60, then picked it up. Inside was a single photograph. Her taken through a window, sitting at this exact desk, laptop open. Taken tonight. Her hands didn't shake, that surprised her. She thought they would shake. Instead, something cold moved through her chest and settled there like ice at the bottom of a glass. Someone had been outside this window, while she sat in the dark replaying her husband's voice. She sat on the floor with her back against the bed and let herself go back, not because she wanted to, because she needed to understand exactly how she got here. 9 years ago, Soren Grell could not look a room full of investors in the eye. He was brilliant, genuinely brilliant. The kind of man who could find a security gap in a system that 40 engineers had already cleared, but put him in front of money and he went rigid. His sentences came out wrong. His hands moved too much. Tamsin fixed that. She sat with him the night before every pitch. She translated what he meant into what people needed to hear. She taught him which words made men with money lean forward and which words made them check their phones. She was not his assistant. She was not his publicist. She was the reason his company survived its first 3 years. And he knew that. Back then he knew it. He used to say her name like it meant something. Then the money came, real money. The kind that changes the temperature of a room when you walk in. And Soren stopped saying her name the same way. He started finishing her sentences in public, then correcting them, then replacing them entirely. She remembered the exact dinner it turned, a room full of investors. Tamsin flagged a data liability risk, something she had spotted across 3 similar companies she had quietly saved. Soren laughed. My wife listens to one podcast and thinks she understands cyber risk. The table laughed with him. Tamsin smiled, because she had already learned something about powerful men. They only mock what they are afraid of. That night she started keeping the recorder close. She did not know yet that she would need it to survive. If this story is already pulling you in, hit subscribe now. The best part hasn't happened yet. The new passcode went in on a Tuesday. Tamsin only noticed because she had walked past Soren's server room 100 times without thinking. That door was never something she had to think about. Until she reached for the handle and the panel beeped red. She stood there for a moment, hands still raised. Then she walked to the kitchen and made coffee like nothing happened. That was the thing no one understood about surviving a man like Soren. You learned very quickly that your face was not your own. Your face was a tool, and the moment your face showed him that something landed, he would use that thing again. So she kept her face still, but inside she was already counting. The passcode changed on Tuesday. His assistant stopped copying her on company event emails that Wednesday. By Friday, the home security system had been fully upgraded, new cameras, new panel, new admin login. Soren's login. Not hers. She had lived in that house for 7 years. The calls started happening outside, in the rain, on the far side of the garden where the outdoor speakers didn't reach. She would watch him through the kitchen window, shoulders hunched, one hand pressed flat against the side of his head like he was trying to hold something in. She told herself it was stress. The company was growing fast. Fast growth did strange things to people. She told herself that for 6 weeks. Then came the dinner. Private, 8 people. The kind of dinner where reputations were decided before dessert. One of the investors mentioned a recent breach at a firm similar to Soren's. Tamsin had seen this pattern 3 times across clients she had quietly helped. She knew exactly where the liability gap was. She said so calmly, clearly. Soren smiled at the table. She hears one podcast and thinks she understands cyber risk. Laughter, warm, easy, expensive laughter. Tamsin lifted her glass and smiled with them. Later that night, she found something in the recycling bin Soren forgot she ever checked. A printed invoice, offshore data storage, billed to a company she had never heard of. She almost put it back. Then she saw the billing name. The shell company's initials. T.I. Tamsin Ivor. Her initials. He wasn't just pulling away, he was building something, and he was building it in her name. She did not confront him. Confronting Soren without proof was like walking into a fire holding paper. He would smile, explain it away, and by morning she would feel crazy for asking. So she photographed the invoice instead. Then she went back through 18 months of emails, quietly, at 5 a.m. before he woke up, her coffee going cold beside her while she moved through folders most wives never think to open. The dates hit her first. Every time Soren had locked her out of something, a system, a meeting, a conversation, there was a corresponding transfer, small amounts at first. Then larger, each one authorized under a set of credentials that looked on paper exactly like hers. Her login format, her authorization signature, her archive access. But she had never touched those files. Someone had used her hands without her hands. She sat back and looked at the ceiling, and understood something that made her stomach turn completely over. This did not start last Tuesday. This had been running for a long time. Then her phone rang, and it was Brianni Kell. Tamsin had helped Brianni 3 years ago, a confidential settlement. The kind of situation that destroys a female founder if it ever reaches the press. Tamsin had buried it cleanly. Professionally, she had never told a single person. Brianni's voice on the phone was not the voice of someone calling to catch up. A draft of my settlement just leaked. My board is pulling out. My investors are gone by end of week. A pause. Tamsin, you were the only one who had that file. The line stayed open, but neither of them spoke. Tamsin felt something crack open behind her ribs, not because her name was being blamed. Because Brianni had trusted her completely, and now an innocent woman's company was collapsing because of something Tamsin had not done. Soren had not just come after her. He had used her to destroy someone else. She went to her old leather notebook after the call, the one she kept every important access phrase inside. One page had been cut out, cleanly, carefully. The kind of cut you only make when you have planned it. That page held the backup phrase to her entire private archive. Every client, every file, every secret she had ever been trusted to keep. All of it gone, and her name signed to every door he walked through. He came home during a storm. No call ahead, no text. Just the sound of the front door opening and his footsteps crossing the floor like he owned every inch of it. Which, according to 3 lawyers he had already spoken to, he was about to prove that he did. Tamsin was standing in the kitchen when he walked in. She had not eaten since morning. Her hands were cold. She pressed them flat against the counter so he would not see them trembling. Soren set his keys down, loosened his tie. Looked at her the way you look at a problem you have already solved. He said the marriage was over. Not like a man ending something painful, like a man closing a tab he no longer needed open. He told her the settlement was modest but fair. He told her his lawyers had already prepared everything. He told her signing quickly would be better for both of them. Then he tilted his head slightly. And he said it. You won't survive without me, not financially, not socially, not anywhere. He said it quietly, almost gently, the way you tell someone a fact they should have already accepted. Tamsin's fingers went completely cold. Her throat tightened. Her knees felt the weight of every year she had carried without complaint. 12 years of making him sound smarter in rooms full of people who never once asked what she contributed. She did not scream. She did not cry. She stood completely still and looked at him and said nothing. Because she had learned something about men like Soren. The moment you react, they win. The moment your face breaks, they have the story they want. So she gave him nothing. He straightened his jacket, picked up his keys, and walked back out into the storm like she was already gone. The door clicked shut. Tamsin stood in the silence for exactly 4 seconds. Then she walked to her office, opened her old leather notebook, and lifted out the small silver recorder tucked inside the back cover. The one Soren had laughed at 6 months ago. Still carrying that nervous little thing. She pressed play. His voice filled the room. Frame it through her archive. She will look guilty before she even understands what happened. He had said it out loud. In her house, while she was supposed to be asleep. He called her nervous. He never understood she was recording. She left before the sun came up. No suitcase. A suitcase meant planning, and planning left a trail. She took her recorder, her notebook, one change of clothes, and the photograph of the man in the black raincoat. She paid cash for 3 nights under her maiden name. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and called the one person she trusted with evidence over emotion. Marin Rusk picked up on the second ring. "No hello, just, how bad?" Tamsin said, "He built the whole frame using my credentials, my archive. My initials on the shell company, my login on every transfer." Silence on the line. Then Marin said, "Don't touch any of your accounts, don't open your email, don't warn him." "I know." "Tamsin, I mean it, do not warn him." She knew what Marin was really saying. She had seen women do it before. That last desperate moment where you confront the person destroying you, hoping they will stop, hoping there is something left in them that remembers who you were to each other. There wasn't, she already knew that. Marin arrived at the hotel 4 hours later with 2 laptops, a portable drive, and coffee she had not been asked to bring. She did not hug Tamsin. She sat down, opened the first laptop, and started pulling threads. For 2 hours, neither of them spoke, except in short sentences about data and timestamps. Then Marin stopped typing. "The structure is too clean." Tamsin looked up. "Real theft is messy, people make small errors. They move fast, they leave uneven tracks, this is perfect. Every entry, every access point, every transfer route leads straight back to you without a single detour." He was careful. He was too careful. Marin turned the screen toward her and pointed at a single line of data sitting quietly at the bottom of a chain of transfers. It did not point to Tamsin. It pointed to a private account, hidden inside Soren's own company, used, according to the transaction history, to silence employees, pay off witnesses, and bury internal scandals. A crisis fund. His crisis fund. He had used it to frame her, and left his own fingerprint on the knife. Subscribe right now, because what Tamsin does next will change everything. Don't miss it. 3 clients dropped her in 1 week. No explanation, no phone call. Just emails that all used the same careful legal language, which told her they had all spoken to the same person before sending them. Soren had been busy. Tamsin sat in that hotel room and read every email twice. Then she closed her laptop, walked to the bathroom, ran cold water over her wrists, looked at herself in the mirror for a long time, and walked back out. She ate vending machine crackers for dinner. She woke up at 3 a.m. from a dream where she was standing in her old office, and every wall was made of glass, and people kept walking past, looking in without stopping. She did not call anyone. She opened her notebook instead and started writing names, not Soren's name, not lawyers, not journalists. Women. Founders, executives. A federal judge who had once hired Tamsin to quietly manage a situation that would have ended her career. A tech investor who had survived a hostile board takeover that had her husband's fingerprints all over it. Women who knew exactly what it looked like when a powerful man decided to erase you. She sent 7 emails in 1 hour, short, direct, no self-pity. 4 replied before morning. That was how the firm started. Not with funding, not with an office, not with a single press release. It started with 4 women who had all survived something they were never supposed to survive, and were tired of pretending it hadn't happened. Tamsin built the structure from the hotel room, a private advisory firm. Crisis navigation for women facing exactly what she was facing: financial sabotage, digital manipulation, reputation attacks dressed up as business disputes. She had no business cards. She had crackers and a flickering lamp, and 11 years of experience that Soren had spent their entire marriage calling a hobby. She was exhausted in a way that sleep could not fix. But every morning she woke up and took 1 inch back. Just 1 inch. That was enough. Then an anonymous file arrived in a secure drop she had not shared with anyone except Marin. She did not open it immediately. She called Marin first. Inside the file was evidence that Soren's company had been quietly selling private threat data to a defense contractor. Illegally. Using her name as the authorization trail. He hadn't just framed her for the divorce, he had framed her for all of it. Marin would not let her open it on any connected device. Not her laptop, not her phone, not the hotel's Wi-Fi, nothing that had ever touched the internet or been inside the same room as anything Soren's company had built. They drove to a parking garage at 11 p.m. with a laptop that had never been online, and examined the file the way you handle something that could either save you or finish you. The metadata loaded slowly. Tamsin watched Marin's face. Marin had the kind of face that stayed professional through everything, 12 years in federal cybercrime. She had sat across tables from people who moved millions through ghost systems without blinking. But her jaw tightened. That was enough. The file showed 18 months of unauthorized data transfers hidden inside routine internal security reports. Client threat data. Private vulnerability profiles. The kind of information that governments and defense contractors paid enormous amounts to access quietly. All of it moved through one authorization trail. Tamsin's old credentials. Her name on every door. Her signature on every transfer. Her archive used as the corridor for an illegal operation that had been running since before Soren ever mentioned divorce. He had not decided to frame her when the marriage ended. He had built the frame first. The divorce was just the moment he planned to close the door and walk away clean. The deposition was in 3 days. 3 days to build something that could not be torn apart in a sealed room with Soren's lawyers. Tamsin sat in the passenger seat of that car in a dark parking garage and did not speak for a long time. Then her phone lit up. A text from Soren. 4 words. You should have signed. She turned the screen toward Marin without a word. Marin looked at it, then looked back at the laptop. He thinks you found the file and panicked. Let him think that. The next morning, a legal notice arrived at the hotel front desk. A sealed deposition, Soren's legal team, 3 days away. Tamsin read through the witness list slowly. One name stopped her completely. Brianni Kell. The woman whose settlement had been leaked. The woman who had called Tamsin in tears believing she had been betrayed. Soren had added her as a witness. Against Tamsin. He had taken a woman he had already destroyed once and aimed her like a weapon at the only person who had ever actually tried to protect her. Some men don't just fight dirty, they use your own kindness as the bullet. If you have ever trusted someone who used that trust against you, drop a comment right now. Just say, I know this feeling. You are not alone. The deposition room had no windows. Just a long table, cold air, and the kind of silence that presses against your ears like water. Soren walked in looking like a man who had already won, suit pressed. Posture easy. He set his phone face down on the table the way people do when they want you to know they are not worried enough to check it. He did not look at Tamsin. That was deliberate, she knew that. Ignoring someone completely is its own kind of weapon. His attorney opened with a smooth, quiet devastation. Tamsin had been emotionally unstable since the divorce filing. She had mishandled confidential client files. She had accessed restricted company systems without authorization. She had damaged Soren's reputation out of personal bitterness. Every sentence landed like something rehearsed 100 times. Tamsin sat still. She did not interrupt, did not flinch, did not write anything down. She let them build the entire structure. Because she had learned something from 12 years of crisis work. You never tear down a lie while it is still being built. You wait until it is finished. Until every brick is in place. Until the person telling it feels completely safe inside it. Then you remove the foundation. Marin's evidence entered the room in a sealed folder. The metadata, the transfer routes, the crisis fund trail leading directly to Soren's private account, 18 months of illegal data sales hidden inside his own company's security reports. All of it authorized on paper under Tamsin's credentials. Except one transfer, the one Marin had found sitting quietly at the bottom of the chain. The one that pointed home. Then the silver recorder was placed on the table. The small one. The nervous little thing Soren had mocked in his own kitchen while she stood 3 feet away pretending not to listen. The one that had captured his voice saying, "Frame it through her archive. She will look guilty before she even understands what happened." Soren's attorney stopped writing. Then Brianni Kell spoke. Not the testimony Soren had prepared her for. Brianni looked at the table and said quietly that 2 members of Soren's legal team had contacted her 3 weeks ago. They told her what to say. They told her Tamsin had leaked her settlement deliberately. They told her signing a witness statement was the only way to protect what was left of her company. She had almost believed them. Then she received an anonymous file showing who had actually accessed her settlement documents. The same credentials, the same trail, the same name used as a door for everything Soren needed to walk through clean. Soren picked up his phone, put it back down, picked it up again. During the break, he leaned close to Tamsin, and his voice dropped to almost nothing. "You have no idea who else goes down if you do this." Tamsin looked at him for the first time all day. "I know exactly who goes down." She slid a single document across the table. "That is why I brought the federal subpoena." Soren looked down at it. And for the first time in 12 years, he had nothing left to say. The man who said she would not survive without him just ran out of words. Soren's board removed him on a Thursday. No press conference, no dignified statement. Just a locked door, a security escort, and a building full of people who suddenly could not remember ever being close to him. That is how it always ends for men like Soren, not with noise, with silence, the expensive, deliberate silence of people protecting themselves from the wreckage of someone they once called brilliant. Tamsin was not there to see it. She was in a different building entirely. The fraud findings entered the divorce record and changed everything. The settlement Soren had called modest and fair was rebuilt from the ground up. The shell company carrying her initials, the crisis fund, the illegal data sales. The frame built so carefully over 18 months while he slept beside her and called her paranoid. All of it now part of the legal record. All of it now permanent. 3 more women came forward the week after the deposition, then 4 more. Executives, a former company attorney, a whistleblower who had been paid to disappear 2 years ago and had kept every document. Soren had not just done this to Tamsin. She had just been the one who kept a recorder. The firm grew without a single press release. Word moved the way it moves between women who have survived something no one believed them about, quietly, quickly, through a text that says only call her and a name attached. Tamsin hired 6 people by the end of the first year, then 11. A major risk intelligence company offered to acquire the firm for a number that would have made the old Tamsin lose her breath. She kept controlling ownership. She built a division specifically for women-led businesses facing exactly what she had faced: digital sabotage, financial coercion, reputation attacks dressed up as legal disputes. This is what surviving without him looked like. Not just survival. A company, a team, a record that could not be erased. Richer in every way he said she couldn't be. Though she was not the same woman who had stood in that kitchen with cold hands, trying not to let her knees give out. She checked locks twice now. She paused before opening unknown emails. She trusted slowly and deliberately and without apology. Healing was not a moment. It was 1,000 small mornings where she chose herself anyway. Though Soren sent one final message. Was it worth it? She deleted it without answering. Her new office looked over Lake Union. 12 women sat around her conference table, each holding a folder, each carrying something heavy they had been told no one would believe. Tamsin opened her old leather notebook. The one that once held the recorder. The one that started everything. She looked at the room and said, "Start with what they told you no one would believe." Because the man who said she would not survive without him was never afraid of her weakness. He was afraid of her strength. And without his shadow over her, there was nothing left to slow her down. She didn't just survive without him. She won. If this story found you at the right moment, subscribe now. A new story drops every week. Don't miss the next one. If you have ever had to rebuild your life after someone tried to make you feel powerless, share your story in the comments. Tell us where you are watching from and what time it is there right now. Subscribe, like, share, and help this story reach someone who needs it tonight.